Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angela Hans, and you are welcome to this tranquil space with the Hans.
Okay, first of all, I don't know what kind of voice that one
It's
is.
my radio voice.
But this is not. Is this radio? This is not
Sometimes
radio.
I just need
This
to
is
give the world a reminder that I
the
was
world
once
does
a
not
radio
need.
presenter. So, yes, you're going to have to deal with my radio voice, which is quite
I
amazing.
see. You know, I'm the one controlling this. I can off your mic at any time.
Hi, Jesus. See now off your mic. Hi, everyone.
Okay. Hello.
And to my left is, I mean to my right is.
Exactly, because I was going to say I'm not on your left. I'm on your right. You are on my left.
Okay. To my right, since we are doing direction, is.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Bien Hans, and I was on radio, but I'm not using radio voice. You see, I'm using my regular voice.
Regular.
Yeah.
So the name of this podcast is This Tranquil Space with the Hands.
Mm-hmm.
There's a backstory to the fact that it's with the hands because it was supposed to be This Tranquil Space with
First
Angela.
of all, did I enter grass? What's all these things on my
know.
trouser?
It was supposed to be This Tranquil Space with Angela, but the Holy Spirit had other plans.
Yeah, he did.
He literally told me, one shall chase 1,000, 2 10,000s. This is not your journey. You have to do it with your husband. So I had to invite this somebody
The presence.
to this space. And why are we doing this in the first place, Mr. Hans?
Well, there's so many reasons why we're doing this. But I think one of it is that God will just want us to share our journey. I'm not necessarily saying that, we've been married for X amount of years and so we have, X amount of experience and all of that. But, things that we just struggled with and we overcame. So the journey, basically, God will just have us share the journey. I think one of the things that God said to us when we got married when we were getting married, was that our marriage will be an example.
Our marriage, I'll be our marriage.
Our marriage. That's what I said. Marriage. You know the year for night, before for daytime. So our marriage will be an example. So that's basically
what the podcast is about. And I just wanted to slot this in here. This was actually birthed, from a burden about failing marriages. So we have heard stories. I mean, towards the end of last year, we just started having like this burden from God. Like everywhere we turned to, marriages were failing on Instagram. People were like, marriages were just crumbling. People were unfollowing each other. And one day my husband was just like, nah, there's something up. We need to start praying for marriage. So we started actively praying for marriages. And because I'm a therapist, I have counseled a couple of people, a couple of couples. And I just failed to understand like why marriages were crumbling. And it's not like our marriage has been perfect. But I think what it is we've allowed God to like be the anchor, and we have learned from so many things, and we were like open to the tutelage of the Holy Spirit. And I just feel like the lessons we learned, and trust me, we're going to be married 5 years next month. And in 5 years, let's say we don't marry like 10, 15 years, because we've been through battles. And those battles, the lessons we've learned from those battles, everything is what God would have us share. And so that is why we have this podcast called The Tranquil Space. Another reason why it's called The Tranquil Space is because tranquility is like a higher level of peace. And that is what we actually, the Tranquil Space was supposed to be like a safe space for mental health. That's what it was for. And then
it can still be that.
It is still going to be that, because the truth is we don't know what God is doing with this podcast. We don't know where God is taking this podcast. We're just willing vessels. I think while I was waiting for confirmation, and I had to like speak to a few of my mentors and Egbons, one thing they just kept saying was, always ask the heart of the father and just ask the father what Papa would have us say so that we don't speak of our own accord. So one thing I can say is that there's going to be a lot of vulnerability led by the Spirit. So we're going to be sharing things that normal people say, I shouldn't be sharing that part of your marriage with the whole world. But if it's what Papa has said we should say, we're going to say it. It might not sit well with everybody, especially our aunties and uncles, because I can legit hear some of my aunties say, Ida, you're not supposed to be saying all those things. But as long as it's what God has asked us to do, who are we to say no?
Yeah, we'll just basically go with the Spirit, Spirit of the Lord, you know, and just share with you as we go on this journey. And also, we'll also, create space for or create time or an avenue for people to also share their experiences as well, and then we can also learn from that too, because there are a lot of things we're still trying to figure out ourselves. So yeah, welcome to the Tranquil space.
With the hands.
Yeah.
Or the hands.
Sorry, the thing hard for me to pronounce.
This tranquil
This
space.
Tranquil space.
Wait, that's why I said, like radio presenter.
I don't know why you're doing hand like this.
I'm remembering my baby sister. My baby sister is always like that.
Sans, you better look at your this thing there and see
My
that you're busting.
This man is
you're
just-
busting on the left and on the right.
This man. Anyways, so on to the next thing. Who is this podcast for? What is our target audience?
Come on.
It's for everybody.
All right.
Yeah. I would say.
All right.
So here's the thing about marriage, and my mentor told us, she kept drumming this in our ears, that marriage is the basic units or the units with which God is going to change the world, because strong marriages build strong people, and strong people build a strong generation and a strong nation. The one reason why we have broken generations is because people are broken. If you come from a good family unit, 70% of the work is done. The rest, your parents give you good character development. When you go out, you're not really affected by the world. You don't have childhood trauma. Childhood trauma is another conversation for another day. And, you're out in the world and you're doing God's work, or you're doing what you're supposed to do, whole and healthy. And it all ties back to a good family. And how do you get a good family? It's from marrying right. So that's why I say it's for everyone. So if you're not married, this podcast is for you. If you're married, this podcast is for you. If you are nagbalagba in marriage, this podcast is for you, because some things we would say, you're like, I don't quite agree. We want to know why you don't agree. We're open to learning, because if you think you know too much, now there, problem starts. So, wisdom is principal thing. In all things get understanding. Yeah, so we are here to give the wisdom that we have and also receive wisdom from everyone else. Yeah. So yeah, this podcast is for everyone. Do you agree?
Welcome one, welcome all.
I said, do you agree?
Yes, I just like what I said now. Welcome one, welcome all. So yeah, it's for everyone.
All right.
Okay. Yes, so welcome again, guys. Welcome to our space,
This is literally our tiny London coral. Because if you know London houses, you'd be like...
Yeah, story for another day.
You'd be like 4x4.
Moving on, Miss Hans, so...
Okay.
What are we talking about today? No, well, this is like an introduction video.
I'm tired of this. So guys, I literally gave this guy a breakdown of what
Can you not say what happened behind the scenes?
And now he's asking me...
Why are you giving them behind the scenes now?
Novice.
Is this a novice? Is this a movie?
Novice. Anyway, so I told him what we're going to talk about. I have no idea why he's asking me. We're going to open your behind outside. Okay. Yeah, so the next thing on our to-do list is, why did we get married in the first place?
There's a movie on it.
Yeah. So he's going to do Why Did I Get Married? And I'm going to do Why Did I Get Married 2. Part 1, Part 2. You see what I did there?
No. But why am I going first? Ladies first.
Because yours is short, straight to the point. Bam. Why did you get married? Bare hands. Tell me, what made you decide to stop being a bad boy, ladies man?
Sorry, I was never a bad boy. I was
He
always
was a
good boy.
ladies man.
Always a good boy. I
He
don't know
was
what
a
you're talking
ladies
about.
man.
I've been a good boy in my life.
Should I
go to
reiterate? He was a
church.
ladies man.
I go to church. I fellowship with the Lord Jesus.
Nobody's saying you didn't
I
fellowship.
was singing with the sisters in choir, so that's it.
Emphasis on sisters in the choir.
And brothers as well. What? Okay.
Okay.
So, wow, that's. Do you know? Funny enough, nobody has ever asked me why did I get married. The question is always, how did you know
Yeah.
that she was the one?
Yeah.
It's mostly that question. How did you know? How did you know she was the one? Nobody has really asked me why did you get married? You know, I've asked myself once when we had more fights like this. Just like,
Get the way you go fight, so you could just talk.
oh, why did I get married?
Blood of Nebuchadnezzar who sent me work.
You know, but I think I just came to a point in my life where, because I've been on this journey with the Lord Jesus Christ, you know, through the ups, downs, and I just came to a point where I was like, you know what, I think I'm ready. Another day I'll share, you know, because I had fears of, I wasn't going to get married based on things, experiences, things that had happened. I just had this fear that, man, I don't think I will get married. I think one of it is just growing up with my mom and my dad wasn't there. I mean, if you know me, you know that. So I'm just like, there was this.
But wait, pause. You say if you know me, you know that. We're assuming that a lot of the people that are going to join this podcast or listening don't know you. So yeah, just give like a big.
I grew up with my mom, like 100% of my life was with my mom. Never had a dad. I met him recently, just in case he watches this podcast, so he knows. I met him recently in my 30s. Yeah. So, you know, there was that fear of I just might not get it right, or I don't really understand, you know, what it really is to be a husband and then now a father, you know. But thank God I had people around, you know, who I saw and they sort of mentored me as well. But yeah, to answer your question, I stopped going around. I just think I got to a point where, you know, I just told God I was ready. I was ready to settle down and try this.
So you just woke up one morning and said to yourself, okay, so today I'm done being whatever I am and I just want to settle down. You literally woke up one morning. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't wake up.
No, because you're making it sound like I just made a decision to get married. Is that
Okay? The thing was, I had just been okay. Yes, it's another thing. I just remembered now. And I don't know. Most people can relate with me. Most guys can relate with this. There was this thing of being scared of commitment. You know, just putting yourself there and saying, okay, this is it. Then you now see another fine girl and you're like, did I make a mistake? Am I really ready?
To one girl?
Okay,
Yeah.
why am I now talking to this one if I'm saying I want to? So, you know, and then that cycle just keeps going. I mean, it paints itself in different ways, not just only the way I've said it just now. There are other ways, but yeah. So I just got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing all of this. I'm done with this. I'm ready. You know, and before that time, I had just taken out time to just spend with God. You know, like when you just go like on a retreat. So it was like 3-4 months. You know, just took myself into God, if I could use that word. I just took myself into God, you know, just praying and just, you know, being still.
I think there's like one detail you're missing. That you came out of a situationship before you made this decision. Can you remember?
Yeah, I came
You
up.
were in you were in a situationship that was one kind, and when it went south, you were just like, you know what? Nah,
No,
I'm
it
not.
didn't go south. The thing was, so in my head, I was, you get to the point where you're like, okay, yes, you're ready, even though you're still checking. Like my sister would say, shout out to Rolly, she would say, you're checking everything. So I was at the point where I was checking, and then I put the question out to the person. I'm not going to mention names, and it was a thing of, well, how do you know I'm the one? Are you sure? What if tomorrow? And you know what? I'm just like, I can't be in this space, So we just ended things. It was painful, but we ended things. And so I mean, most times, what do we do when we end a relationship? Different people, some people say, I'm not dating again. I'm facing God. Some other people, go out wild. It just depends on how you handle, breakups. But for me, I just turned to God and I was like, look, just help me, and yeah, that was it. So the next like 4 or 5 months, I was just putting myself,
Yeah.
before the Father. And then I remember clearly one night I was coming back from I think it was rehearsal or something, and I was in my friend's car. There was Farah and some other guys I can't remember. There was Toba. Toba was in that car as well, I think. Some other guys were there, and I just said out loud to them, like, man, I think I'm ready to get married.
And everybody laughed, I'm sure.
I mean, except Toba. Toba was like, ah, that's good, that's good. Farah was like, my friend,
Shout out to Farah. Farah is one of our best friends.
you
He's
know,
one of those
Farah
people
is,
that have been there.
but, and then the rest is history because sometimes we just say some things, and that's why they say there's power in the tongue. You say some things, and it just goes into the atmosphere,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Okay.
I think I just got to the point to answer this. I've been saying plenty of things to answer this
That
question.
is how you did 10 minutes of
It,
Guerrero Rigmarole.
yeah, we have 9 minutes more. Okay, yeah, that's it.
See, let me, even when Bia is giving word of knowledge, I need to pinch him out and get to the point, sir, because you can go round. Anyways, why did I get married? Unlike my husband here, I didn't have a Kairos moment. I didn't have a aha, oh, this is it. I'm ready to get married. Matter of fact, I was in a relationship, a very serious relationship that I thought we die here when I met him. And I have always been so previous, or what's the word,
Prior.
prior to meeting him, I had been engaged one time in uni. One boy like this, one funny
My
boy,
God, we're calling out people now.
yeah, gave me a ring one time. And at that point I'm just like, and my mom was so excited because my mom married very early, so her prayer was always that her children would get married really early. But I came out of school, I came out of uni, I started living with my cousin, and I had like 2 years of debauchery. And if you guys know what debauchery means, it's like a year where you're just like all out doing the craziest thing. I was like the club best. I was going to all the clubs, club hopping, the whole of Ozumba, by the way. Do you understand? I was enjoying my life, living la vida loca, drinking, smoking, enjoying all the vices that I could ever have. Just having a year or 2 years of just being me. Because I came out of a private uni and I'm just like, I've been living with rules. Can't we just let loose?
No offense to private unis. Private unis
No
are
offense to
very
private
amazing.
uni, because
Please send your children to private universities.
yeah,
They're
so
very
I
good.
I did that.
If you can.
I did that, and I think I was coming out of that high because it was a pinnacle, and I was beginning to like dip. So I started having like serious conversations with my then boyfriend, saying things like where do you see us going? And it was a thing of we weren't both serious. He really loved me. I loved him. It was a toxic, very weird relationship, but we were there for each other. We're going through a very dark moment when I met this one, and we talked about it, and he had already said things like do you mind being engaged for 2 years? And that was like a red flag. Like, it's like this boy wants to make me Lord of the Rings. But because of the way I felt about him, I didn't think I had any objections somewhere in my mind. I'm just like, okay, you know what, if this is what it is, it is. My mom had met this boy, not met in an official capacity, but like knew the boy. My sister really liked this guy. My cousins really liked this guy. He was like our guy. Do you understand? So even when I had broken up with him, he didn't believe I'd broken up with him. My family did not believe I'd broken up with him. They're just like, it's Angela. She's gonna go back. But one thing people don't know about me, and my mom knows about me, is when I decide, so I can dilly-dally about an option. But the moment I say I'm doing it and I put my head into it, see, even if it's the worst decision in the world, I die there.
Only God.
Yeah, like only God can take me out of that place. And it's like that with almost anything. Like when I was going into my 2 years of debauchery, I'm like, these 2 years, we're gonna just what comes will come. I'll be all right. Same thing with like my new addiction to perfumes. I go all out for everything. So when like the relationship was going south, and in my mind, I'm just like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
But when I met Binye, it was like he came with an assurance that I hadn't seen before.
Assurance.
Yeah, he was sure. And I wasn't sure. And I remember there were times during a relationship I would say, your confidence is giving me confidence, because I wasn't sure of what this guy wanted. But from the first day, which is a gist we'll have another day, from the first day I had a conversation with him, he was like, do you have a boyfriend? I'm like, yes. He goes, if your boyfriend messes up, I'm coming in and I'm coming to marry you. And I'm just like, bruh, the weed you're smoking is very bad. Go return it to your dealer. But he was sure. And I remember when I finished meeting him, the day I went to my boyfriend's house, met his best friend. I told his best friend, I found husband. Oh. And they all laughed about it. Best friend was like, guy, your babe has found husband. That one said, congratulations to you. Call me for your wedding. Like, it was just a joke. But somewhere in my head, I just knew that there's something very weird about this feeling. There's something very weird. So, I mean, while some people have that this is it moment, I was one of those people that wasn't sure. I remember telling my husband a few weeks back that...
Is there a reason why you are addressing me as your husband?
Okay, telling him...
On a normal day, you know.
telling this guy a few weeks back that even while I was walking down the aisle, the day of my wedding, I still wasn't sure. But you see...
That was a shock to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the
you
thing
just told
is,
me that like recently, because I never knew.
Yeah, but the thing is, you see that thing I told you about, that my determination to make it work, that's where I was. From the day he said, we're going to get married, and from the moment I broke up with my ex and we had declared ourselves dating, I'm just like,
shout out
you
to
know
Auntie
what?
Shelves.
You know what? If I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Even if we make mistakes, and we would fight, and I would tell him things like, this is our fight. We're fighting, you know. But it's not on to break up. Do you understand? Because we went through like very crazy moments. But I was sure that I was in it when I started. So that's like the difference between, because he came into himself, came into that decision before he met me. I didn't come into that decision until like way into the relationship. Even with the ring on my finger, I was still being a baby girl. But I just knew. And there were times when he would doubt that we were going to be together. He would say, do you think we really need to be together? Do you think we're going to break up?
You said you just knew?
Just knew, like, I'm not going to back out.
So in essence, if you're going to answer this question that you asked now, it means that
I got married.
You knew you were not going to back out, but you don't know why you got married.
I don't know why I got married. That's the answer.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't get married because I was ready. I was 26. I was still, you know... I didn't get married because I was biological clock was ticking. Everyone around me. I didn't even have friends that were getting married. I didn't even have friends. Let's even go there. So there was no pressure from people around me. My cousin is an independent woman. My mom is a single mom. So there was nobody. Well, my mom used to say once in a while, but I'm like, do you understand? Like, there was nobody that was getting married. Like, girls would say, oh, all my mates are getting married. None of that was happening in my life. I had no pressure. In fact, it came as a shock to everyone that Angela... See, if they said, if everybody should marry, Angela would be like at the bottom of the list, because I was deep in debauchery. Do you understand what I mean? So, like, I didn't have anything pushing me to marriage except the determination to make this relationship walk into marriage. Does it make sense? So, I didn't want to get married. I had no pressure. Nobody was chasing me from where I was. I was cool. But it was God's time for me to do what I did. And I did it. Do you get what I mean? So, like, what the essence of us sharing these stories, like, there are two different sides to a coin. The fact that you don't think you're going to get married, and then all of a sudden someone comes into your life and it feels like this is it. You cannot say because I don't feel like getting married, you shouldn't get married. You get. And at the same time, if you've been around this merry-go-round for too long and you think it is time to get married and you feel that nudge to get married, then do it. So there is no, I think there's no right time. Although ours is like a very, and we'll go into this later because you have to be ready for marriage. You were preparing yourself for marriage. I wasn't quite preparing myself for marriage. But what it was because I had that determination to make it work, I basically went to the school of get ready for marriage while we were courting.
So I'm just gonna cut in and say, I mean, so like what you just said. Huh? Hey, don't I can't lose this thought.
Speaking to the mic.
Okay, like saying, yeah. So I'm saying you not knowing why. I mean, like this her situation, is just unique to her. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was trying to get my thought back. Her situation is just unique to her. I don't know if anybody feels this way.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this to say it is not. I mean, like if you feel this way, then okay, maybe it's the right time.
No. Oh, please. Again, another caveat.
I'm just saying.
The thing, yeah, there's one thing I needed to add. So, even with my not being ready, there was one factor that came in immediately. I made the decision,
Yeah, was that?
and that was God. Remember the moment we started actively dating, we went straight to God. Like, we didn't branch. Can you remember? Like,
Yeah.
It was a thing where I was on a low spiritually. I loved God, but I didn't have a personal relationship. And the moment I met Binge, the moment I met you, you introduced me to God. And you didn't introduce me to God because you wanted to, you know how people go to church and try and court like a church girl. I wasn't even going to church actively. I was, but I was like, just go on Sunday and feel all right. But then like you took me to church. We started having vigils. You were more concerned about building my spiritual life. And I was willing to do the work. So I think that's why I keep saying like I grew. The lessons I learned them while we were courting. But again, I feel like that was a very unique experience for me because like time and chance happened at the same time. You were ready and God just wanted us to be together. So he took me and actually like exponentially built me up for marriage in that short period of time. It might not work for everyone, but there were lessons that I learned that I feel like people should learn because you actually suffered because of like the speed of how things happened. You suffered. There were things that I should have dealt with on my own, and like you were taking the brunt of
we
it.
will have one episode of
We'll go there,
titled The Sufferings.
Yes, the sufferings. But like what I'm saying is,
suffering.
if I had done all of that before,
Well, yeah.
do you understand? It would have been easier for you. But then God gave you grace to handle what you handled, and gave me grace to handle what I handled, and it was specific grace for a specific. What's the word? Purpose.
Purpose, yeah.
So that's it. I think if we go, we would enter like 50 minutes.
Yeah, it is the first episode is supposed to be 30 minutes, but thanks to me and Mrs. Hans over explaining. Next episode. 30 minutes.
Next episode we're trying to keep this. Well, the truth is it's a podcast, so 30 minutes, it depends. See, let's not limit the spirit of God. Because
It's all right.
when God tells us to start speaking, we speak. You know how it goes. Yeah.
It's all right.
Anyways, so that kind of answers the questions for the first episode of this Tranquil Space with Meet the Hands. Again, if you're just joining us, well, I don't know, radio life. He says if you're just joining us.
This is not radio, it's
Just to
podcast. So
reiterate.
there's something called pause. There's a button called pause. There's rewind.
I'm sorry, guys.
And there's fast forward, but hopefully people don't fast forward.
Sorry, don't fast forward. We are not blabbing. But anyways, we are really terrified about doing this. It's been a long time that we've been feeling the nudge, and like today I was literally on the train, and they used to say if you don't do it, someone else will do it, and that's the biggest fear, not doing the will of God. So we just had to. We hope you enjoy this first episode.
Sorry, we don't have mic stand, so that's where the mics are on the chair.
A lot of things we're fixing up. We'll get better, but we're just literally obeying instruction first.
30 seconds. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you
for listening. If you've listened, thank you so much for listening.
And if you
please click the button
subscribe button. Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button. And podcast, I think you can actually subscribe to podcasts. Yeah. And hopefully we'll bring the next episode soon. Cheers. Adios.
Cheers.
Au revoir. Bye.
Bye.